Okay, welcome to year two of Dog's yearly catch up. This is what the end of December. I know Dogs has come back from Miami. So he's got a bit of a tan. I don't. That's probably because I'm Irish, but anyway. So Dog, do you want to take over a little bit and have a chat?
Hey, thanks, Simon. Good one, mate. Yep, yeah, we had a sort of I don't know what we could loosely call a podcast last year, as a way of a end of year wrap, and I think we got almost 10 views or something, and my
I
family
think
were thrilled with it, so I thought, what the hell,
I have
let's
two
give it another
kids.
go.
I have two kids, a wife.
I had to pay most of those as well, but um, yeah. Anyway, look, it's that time of year, isn't it, where things quieten down a little bit in our world, and it's a nice time to reflect a little on the year past, and primarily, I guess, for this sort of business I have, sailing.dog, to just let everyone know what's been going on and what's about to happen. And look, for everyone, Simon Johnson has become a very good friend of mine. I met him actually through Team Aqua, probably getting close to 10 years ago when he was doing the pit on the RC44 Aqua. And Simon's got a lot of feathers to his bow, and he's an IT guru. Well, he is to me anyway, which
That's not
not setting
difficult.
the bar that high. But I guess through in the lead up to the pandemic, but probably through the pandemic, Simon was gave
Yeah,
me a lot of help with setting up the website and creating a presence sort of online with social media and stuff. And Simon's also a very accomplished sailor and someone that's yeah, transitioned really well, from a sort of Group One or Corinthian sailor into being a pro sailor, and nice job last year, mate, with getting on the podium in really the top two monohull classes in the world, the RC44s and the TP
yeah,
52s, and you've set quite a sort of busy schedule. You've got quite a busy schedule with the Galatea, the 100 footer, and the Volvo 70, the Choose, as well. So I'm really pleased to see that your journey in sailing's going really well.
I'm not sure many people would agree that I've made the transition from Cat 1 to Cat 3, but still feels like I sail like an amateur most days, but somehow I'm getting paid. That's good. I definitely wasn't getting paid before, by the way.
Yeah.
Definitely. If anybody from ISAF is listening.
So Simon, that's great, and I guess we'll just sort of wade through some of the highlights of
Yeah,
2024.
yeah. And
Uh,
I'll try to keep
and
us on the straight and narrow somewhat so we don't run into about a 3 hour conversation.
exactly,
Good.
exactly, and you've got an Australian who likes the sound of his own voice, and an Irishman. What could possibly go wrong? So.
We just need a third person, don't we? When I was in a Kiwi or
Yeah, that would,
something.
would have a good joke then. Yes. Yeah.
So tell us, so dog, you're only back from Miami.
Yeah. It's probably a good way to start the chat about the year, because my year in sailing has been bookended by Miami trips, as it generally is, and the Miami Etchells scene that I've been lucky enough to be a small part of for the past 25 years, is really strong at the moment. The Etchells class has sort of evolved in the USA, really, to whereby everyone goes to Miami. Through the summer months, people sort of tend to filter off and do different things, or possibly spend more time away from sailing, and in other pursuits. But wintertime in the States, people congregate in to Miami. The sailors congregate to Miami, and the Etchells class has been a massive benefactor of that. And this last regatta last weekend, the Louis Piana Cup, was there was 42 boats, and the, I've I would say, without exaggeration, it's probably the highest level of sailing I've done since being in the star class in 2008. Um, it was so tough, but for me, so rewarding. I mean, we had a tough weekend. We went the wrong way, 3 out of 3 on Saturday after pretty good starts. And
Oh, wow.
we had a 60-point day. Got better on Sunday. I think, we were the fourth best boat, but yeah, we finished 15th in the regatta, and mind you, that was with a professional sailor, Chris Larson, driving the boat, because Peter Duncan, my boss, my skipper, wasn't able to attend. So you had three professional sailors: Mark Mendelblatt, myself, and Chris. And we finished 15th, and you look at the people above us, they're all really good teams, and we also beat some very accomplished teams. And in all of the races, there was very, very strong teams having bad days, and it was really it was brilliant weather, sort of mid-teens wind strength, maybe a little lighter on Sunday, but it was if you were deep, it was really hard to come back. It was a real knife fight there in the fleet, but the camaraderie was high. The weather was fantastic. The spirit in the fleet was great. And yeah, I mean, long may it continue. It's a great class. And
You just
um,
can't beat the one design, can you?
well,
You just,
for me, Simon, it's sort of my background, and
yeah.
it's happy to sort of gravitate back toward one design. I might just
You're very,
relate one
you're very
story,
honest, isn't it?
which is I talked about the high level in the fleet, but not everyone's there, um, and there are people who are striving to reach that level, but are also quite realistic of where they're at in the sport, but they just love competing with others in at that level of competition. And there is, I did want to give a shout out to one team, or one guy in particular, and it's a fella called David McLean, who's now in the Cows fleet. And he called me through the pandemic and basically said, "Hi, it's Dave. I found you on the internet." And you know, those 5 words sent a chill down my spine initially, Simon.
I was in my 20s. I was young. I was stupid. I didn't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, he's a guy who hadn't really sailed for 20 years. And the long and the short of it is, he came down, he just wanted to go sailing. It's literally wanted to go sailing. He found me through, well, you're the one to blame, because he found me through the website. And he came down to Cowes. We went sailing on my Etchells that I had at the time. He loved it. Then he came back and bought his sister, who had also done a bit of sailing in her past. They loved it, and then but anyway, 3 or 4 times came down with different family members. Ended up buying an Etchells, and I did say to him, "Look, you're stepping in at a pretty high level here. This is not for everyone."
Yeah.
But what he saw, he sort of visited on a regatta weekend, and he was very welcomed, and he, got into it, with a couple of beers with, and got into the social side, and loved it, and just said, "I want to be part of this." And he bought a boat, and now he goes to Miami, every regatta, and he's just loving life. And just one other side note is, one of the trips that he came down to Cowes, he bought his best mate, Saul, and Saul is born in England, to Indian parents, and had basically never sailed before. And he came down, and yeah, he was fairly tentative. You've got a 50-something-year-old fella, a very successful business up there in Birmingham, where they hail from, and he he you could tell he was very tentative, but very inquisitive, and he was having a really nice time. Anyway, long and the short of it is, in that last trip to Miami, here's Saul off to the side in a laser, going out every day in Miami that we were there in the laser, getting better at sailing, learning more. And he also told me he's bought an Etchells in the Hong Kong fleet where he does a lot of business. So it's just very cool. I just love stories like that.
It's why you do sailing, isn't it? You forget that, sometimes you're like, you go off and do these sailing events and God knows where it is, but ultimately, we all started out there. And that's the reason why we got into it, because we just love sailing.
That's it.
And that's exactly, like that. He's, what I mean, guy in his 50s heading off to Miami, beautiful part of the world. You can gone out in his laser, just loving life.
Yeah, no, it's very cool, and I find that really inspiring too.
Yeah, of course.
In it,
Yeah.
to get back to let's it's the grassroots of the sport in many
It's
ways.
not easy. It's not easy probably, going step. I'm sure, probably if you can buy an actual things, that is obviously a very successful individual, in a way. And so it's not easy to go back and, have to ask for help and, going through those
Mm.
steps. It's very humbling, in a way.
I
Uh,
must say, and that's one thing about the Etchells class that it actually does fill me with pride in a way. Is it's very open. You can just wander the dock and talk to people and
yeah,
ask advice on settings and parts and systems and sales, and so and that I'm sure that was a big part of what attracted
yeah,
David into the
yeah.
class.
So you did a bit of 6 meter sailing as well on Stella.
Yeah, so last year in the wrap up we did, I guess I probably spoke a lot about a 6 meter campaign I was involved in. We had the Worlds in Cowes, and I sailed. I was lucky enough to coach the world champion winning team, which was Scoundrel. And I mean, have a look at this. Have a look at this coffee cup that you know that's in the high street of Cowes with the Scoundrel team,
Beautiful.
and Dave Hughes, my good mate, um, the American, had these made up for us all and sent out around the world. Fantastic. Anyways, I was approached by actually the team that came second in Cowes, which is led by Violeta Alvarez, and she basically appointed me her team's coach,
Yeah,
and that got going straight away. I had a couple of trips before Christmas last year,
yeah,
and did quite a few trips, events with Team Stella in the 6 meter class this year. And the 6 meters in quite good shape. The modern class goes to Palma and does 5 events each year, and I must say I love it when pro sailors, experienced pro sailors, get on the front foot and help the class. And in this sense, Marcus Visa, renowned German pro sailor and great sailor, um, basically corrals these owners and you know has put together this series in Palma. He sorts it all out with the club, gets everyone on the same page with dates and try and put the
yeah,
schedule together that everyone's happy with, and it all happens. And so that was great this year. It's on again next year,
yeah,
and they've also got two boats that people can come and use.
yeah.
Not necessarily charter even, but just come and use. People who are genuinely interested in joining the
On the
class.
fence a bit, want to figure it out. Yeah,
So that's great. Anyway, being with Villetta is really wonderful experience for me, because she is very passionate about her sailing. She taught me a lot about team culture. She's because she's got a very settled crew, um, who she's very loyal to, and likewise they're very loyal to her. Um, it's a it's an environment where it's quite collegial. It's quite tight. It's like a family, but she doesn't accept any form of mediocrity in any way. With the boat being nice and tidy and clean,
Yeah.
or systems working, or a sail turning up and not being 100%, or so on and so forth. And it's wonderful. We've headed we use the services of Jose Luis Orton and as a data analyst, and that's added a new dimension, I think, to Violetta's growth as a sailor. She's an engineer, and she's very inquisitive, and I love it when one thing that's been great for me as a grizzled, kind of pro sailor, um, is that she asks questions, and she's often asking questions that we should all be asking.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
she's not afraid to ask the questions. She's not afraid to. She doesn't care what she looks like asking all these questions. But they're all great questions.
yeah,
And so whether that's a female thing or whether it's just particular to Violetta, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's just been wonderful. And then I would say the final thing that's been very rewarding for me is it's the first time ever that I've been in a campaign where English hasn't been the language, the primary language, and also
make a
that the
joke about
Anglo culture
speaking.
hasn't dominated.
We make a joke about the fact that you're speaking Aussie and
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, as I say to them, I'm still learning English myself, so it's about a level playing field when we speak.
I would love to hear some of your Spanish though. That'd be amazing.
Muy bien.
Ah, well done. That was great. Well done. That was great.
I can order coffee. I can order beer.
Yeah.
I can, yeah, I can do all the basics. But I did have I do have a goal to learn more Spanish, and let's check in on that again next year if we're still around. But yeah, so anyway, just the Latino culture.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to learn more about that and experience that, and the more emotional, more sort of emotional behavior, I guess,
Yeah.
and which I thought is great and better in many respects,
Yeah.
I think, than that the sort of this sort of Anglo reservedness that I mostly deal with. And yeah, so anyway, there's 6 meters, has been great, and we continue on with that into next year.
And you went back to your Olympic coaching for a few months.
Yeah, I did, Simon. Yeah, I was approached in close to Christmas last year, and the German Olympic Nacra team had sort of cut ties with their coach and were looking for someone, and I agreed to do it on a sort of well, that's 3 months and see how we're looking
Yeah.
basis. And that was with Paul Koloff and Elisa Stulima, who'd won the bronze medal in the 2020 or 2021 Olympics, and really accomplished sailors. And yeah, I guess I'll just give you some of my kind of takeaways or sort of things that the insights, I guess, into that scene after having been away from it. Oh, gee, for 16 years. Um, and that is that these sailors, they are really given the opportunity to be the very, very best they can be. Like, it's a full-time pursuit. And as such, the level is higher than back in my day, when we did have other,
Yeah.
we had to have a job,
I
and we
have
had to have
funding.
sources of income. That the funding level, certainly where I come from, was nowhere near at the level you would need to just go sailing full time. It may have been in some countries, but certainly not Australia, and not many countries, and probably still isn't. But certainly in some, they can be full time at it. Um, I think one problem with that though is Olympic sailing has, from my point of view, become much more of an industry. And in that sense, I mean, world sailing makes most of its money from the IOC as being an Olympic sport. And so the layers of sort of bureaucracy and administration that filter down from world sailing into the federations, and all the admin layers there to then the events and coaches and so on. I just found it, that, to me anyway, looked to be robbing a lot of the enjoyment, for the sailors.
You're not the
It
first
was.
person to say that. I was talking to somebody else, an umpire, and he was saying something very similar.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's just to come back after 16 years with fresh eyes. It was quite a stark thing to see. Um, sailing instructions for Sophia were 50 pages long, of which half of that was the coach boat regulations. It's just like, how did we get to this point? And yeah, the sailors are, I guess, in some ways, rightly under quite a bit of pressure, and expectation from their federations. It all comes down to winning and medals, and that's the
That's
currency.
the point of funding they get.
Yeah, so I guess it is what it is, and that's what you sign up for. But yeah, we're not here to solve anything. It just is what it is. But that
Yeah,
they're my takeaways, and ultimately, I didn't continue with Paul and Elisa, because of other commitments, really, and also trying to do the right thing by them. I was not in a position where I could just dedicate myself fully to that project, from April until the games in August,
yeah,
um, because of pre-existing commitments, and that, in my view, was really what they needed.
yeah,
And I basically came in a bit too late, but I'm on good terms with them now, and they're post Olympics forging their sort of lives, beyond the games. So.
yeah.
Mm.
Nice. And you did some time with Interlodge again, the final
Yeah,
year for.
it's Interlodge 52, Simon. I did three events of the five, in the 52 series. It's pretty intense, as you know, sailing on sled there. It's a pretty intense environment. It's very high level, fully professional. Limited training time. You come in hot, and you just got to be on it. And
It's very, that's one thing that I really noticed, the step. That was my first year of doing the Super Series. The detail, and sailing obviously is very
mm,
detailed sport, but every detail, you don't
mm.
have a lot of training days. Everything has to be exact, kind of way. And that's why, you know, you see some of the best sailors in the world in that class, like, kind of way, and just, details matter, and you have to execute everything perfectly, 'cause you don't get many chances at it. Every race matters at the end of the year. And that was ultimately came into the last day of the whole season.
That's right.
Races in
Yeah,
April made a difference to what happened in
exactly. Yeah, well, most people may not know that the season champion, it's not based on event results, it's based on individual race results that accumulate through the whole season, regardless of who's won events along the way. And I think what you just said also, speaks to the levels of the shore teams,
yeah,
and how professional the whole outfit is. Any time lost, even on a training day, has a big impact. You do see that through these weeks, someone that's got off on the wrong foot or lost the training day because something broke, it's hard to catch up. It really is, and they're quite often on the back foot then for race day one, and then go into race day two behind the pack and so on. So everything, every detail has to be thought about, considered, planned,
yeah,
and what I love about Team Interlodge is that, I look, I think this is true, rings true with any campaign at any level. It is things are more enjoyable and thus people work better together when expectations are in alignment with reality. And what I mean by that, specifically with regard to my experience at Interlodge, is that Austin Fragaman, the owner driver, he's not a person that gives his life to the sport. He's a busy man. He's got other pursuits. He loves other sports, and so he'll quite often not train. He'll quite often turn up and go racing, and that has a cost. That has a cost to the performance. Uh, but his objective is not necessarily to win. If we do win, if we do win races, if we do get on the podium in a regatta, fantastic, wonderful. Winners are grinners. Um, but it's not a disaster if we don't. And there's an understanding that okay, well, fair enough. You know, such and such won, and that you can see why. With the amount of investment of time that everyone on the team's put in together. Um, and I think for Austin, without and Chris Matthews, the program manager and stuff, without putting words into their mouth, but it's more about um, doing the very best you can, um, not getting too hung up on negatives, and getting better, getting better through the week, getting
Yeah.
better through the week, through the season, and a learning environment and a positive environment. So yeah, so that's and they have great that they had assembled great people too, great sailors who all
It is quite an interesting thing is that, where goals match up nicely with reality because, a lot of teams suffer from that. You don't, you go to events and you think you're going to do well and you get smoked out of it and you're like, well, we should be doing better. But ultimately, look around, we've only been doing this for X amount of events. You know what I mean? And some of these guys are, the top level guy, some of the guys you're sailing against, the best sailors in the world, and you have to be it has to be, realistic with yourself. You
Mm,
can't expect to walk into a 52 class, a 44 class, an Etchells class, things like that, and the 6 meter, 5.5, whatever it is, and be winning. You need to put in the time and the work and the hard work. You
that's
know,
it.
like we're
And
saying before, the sport can be very humbling, and you have to be very, celebrate those wins when you get in the podium or you get the race
absolutely.
win said there.
Mhm. Absolutely, Simon. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, the Interlodge experience has been great. The boat's now been sold,
Yeah.
um, uh, and hopefully we see Austin back out there in that environment
Yeah.
soon. But in the meantime, the Fragments have a 44 footer that they'll race in the ORC scene in the States. But yeah, that is a true highlight. I was just actually in contact with some of the crew yesterday and yeah, just sort of reflecting back on the year and how enjoyable it was to work alongside them.
I think the 52, it's going to be kept in the class, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's a really nice boat, actually. It was
Yeah.
built a bit out of sync with they tend to sort of do new boats in clumps, the 52 owners, and that one was a little out of sync with that. It was built for Azura, I think for 2019. No, just before the pandemic. I think it did one regatta in South Africa and then the pandemic hit, something like that. But yeah, great boat. Um, Great boat. And it's,
Lovely systems and stuff on it, the winch package and things.
yes, yes. And that was one of the best things I think that Chris and Austin did when they took the boat was to keep the same shore team
Yeah.
as Azura had. So there's really good continuity there. And it's now going to be known as Vitamina, who are coming into the class. Have been in all that owner's been in a lot of different classes over the past, however many years, probably 15 years or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how they shape up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so I think there's a few guys as well, aren't they? Rolling over from the Interlodge to the Vitamina as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they've retained Cameron Appleton
Um,
and Chris
Luke,
Brittle, Luke
Luke,
Malloy, and David Armitage. Which is smart. You know, those guys have got a lot of
yeah,
will bring with them a lot of experience and how to set the thing up. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
yeah, that'll be good as ever. 12 boats in the last event. A
Mm,
different dynamic than having, I think it was like three more, was it, than we had in the States. And
mm,
that
yeah,
even so extra three boats made it a bit more, the ley lines, things like that, coming into the top marks and made it all a bit more busy. It was amazing the impact those extra three boats have.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
so you're back up Morty again this year, Morty and Rory in the 5.5.
Yeah, yes. I sailed with Peter Morton and Rory Scott again in the 5.5 meter, and just as a little recap, we Morty got into the class in around 2018 or 19 and uh then got really, really sort of inspired. Loved the sailing he did in 2019 in the class, and then we launched into building a boat actually in Cowes, and then the pandemic hit, and well, bottom line is we ended up building three boats, and we we had won the worlds in 22, um, and then Rory joined us. So last year was we did Garda, which is their season opener, but it's like their the class's sort of almost premier event apart from the Worlds as well. A great event. Gee, I think we had 19 boats there in Lake Garda at the end of April. Stunning setting, always good wind. We sailed from Riva, very well organised, and we won that event with a race to spare, which was fantastic. We've we've won that event oh 4 times in 5 years if you take the pandemic out of it, and the fifth time was when our rudder broke in a brand new boat, and we won the first two races, I think. So really positive experiences from in 5.5 in Garda for us, and we went to the Worlds in Benedey in Brittany, France. Unfortunately for us, the wind didn't arrive, and we spent a lot of time sitting in the bottom of the boat, and unfortunately for us, with our boat going pretty slowly relative to the fleet, which is tough, but it's always a highlight with those two guys in particular, with Morty and Rory, that the effort level is obviously there,
Yeah,
but again, it's we come back to that expectations meeting reality or being in alignment with reality, and we just know it's going to be tough on a light day, and you've just got to be patient. You've got to be respectful of each other, and you can be frustrated. We all want to do well. We're all racing sailors, but when you're getting burnt off by boats with sort of 3 meters more sail area in light winds that the boat's not been designed for, yeah, what do you do? So that for us was a tough one. Oh, God, I don't know where we came, I'm afraid. Somewhere around sixth or seventh, I think. But hats off to the winners, John Bacon from Australia, with Ed Wright and Joost Howling as his crew, so multinational crew. My old mate Darren Jones as their coach, twirler, who had worked with a lot more than 20 years ago in the far 40s. So it was nice to see those guys get the chocolates.
yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to a bit more next year with Morty in the 5.5. Great guy to sail with and hang out with.
Runs on to the next thing, the other K31s on the zone as well. You did a bit of work with Flying Jenny, didn't you? The Askews. So,
Yeah, I have, Simon, the last couple of years I was asked to
yeah,
become involved. They have a non-coaching rule for race days. And so the Flying Jenny team, led by Sandy Askew, um, uh, they have me come and help out in a coaching sense on training days
yeah,
here in Cowes, where most of the regattas are based from.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, I really enjoy, Sandy. how cool to work with another driven woman.
Yeah.
Loves her sailing. Is just at that point in her life where that's what she wants to concentrate on. She's got a fantastic team, great at that's all about the people.
Does she
And
have a couple? I think she has a boat in the States as well. Does she? Does she
she
have two?
does.
Yeah.
Look, she has a Melges 24 in the States,
Yeah.
and she's racing that quite hard as well, in Miami and around the Melges 24 scene. So, she's assembled a really good core group of people, and the team's led by Rob Greenouch, a pro sailor, used to be UK, now Australia, with all sorts of experience. And Rob's, he's like me, not getting any younger, but he's pushing himself hard in the Moth class down in Australia, and globally. And I must say, working with Rob as a coach, it the training sessions are like they're very cool. It's very intense. We go out twice a day, come in for a break, and they are an hour and a half probably of full intensity of switch on, go, and it's intense boat handling in one session, let's say, or it's looking at sails and then some boat handling, or it's racing with the fleet and it's just go, 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 ticking off the objectives, and then let's get in and review. So learned a lot from Rob. He's very, very well organized, and it's not surprising where he's gotten in the sport.
No, 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 no. Coming from that Volvo pedigree of doing how many laps around the world.
Mm.
All the other one design stuff he did, his brother Pete as well. And the other one design fleet, the Swan 50s, he did some stuff with Moonlight as well.
Yeah, that's another. It's an interesting one. My first step into the Swan 50 class, which is struck me as I really enjoyed it. They're a great class to coach, and to watch race. And it's a class. The boats are a bit more. How would you say it? Maybe cruisier in some ways in their design,
Yeah.
and actually hard to sail for the sailors because of the sort of compromises to the shape of the cockpit and
Yeah,
the
I haven't
coach
I
roof.
haven't yeah, I haven't had the pleasure, but yeah, I've heard that the winch
Yes, like
diving and things like that, like and having a mass man, and things like that,
that's it. Underpowered on the winches. Uh, but each of those, they're challenges, and it's which team can overcome those the best. And I also sensed a bit of a different owner group, um, uh, where um, they're getting what they want from the boats.
Yeah,
And gee, is it less cost than say a 52? Probably, but marginally, but it's just a slightly different scene, and
yeah,
I really enjoyed it. Worked with Team Moonlight with Graham and Raquel Peterson. Um, Enjoyed the team dynamic. Um, Three women on the team, Raquel and Emily Nagel, who
yeah,
everyone's probably heard her voice through the Sail GP commentary.
yeah,
Uh, Really good navigator and data analyst, and very, very organized, lovely to work with, and support. And then Rebecca Coles, Boo, who a very, very sort of enthusiastic, driven young sailor, and who's got her own mini transat thing going, that she's working towards. So that very really challenging goal for her. So that's quite cool. And that's a class that doesn't allow coaching, where the coaches can't even be on the water, I think, on a race day. And
that works out great for you, doesn't it? Doing all
what's
these
that?
classes where you're coaching all these classes where you can't be on the water for race days. You're sitting in the coffee shop just drinking coffee.
Yeah, well, the event, yeah, um, I'll swing back to that one, but the event I did was not a class sanctioned event. It was Copa del Rey in
Yeah,
the oven of Palma, Mallorca in August. and
Yeah.
so they used it as an opportunity to get some coaching, to get some help from off the boat, for sales setup, and techniques and so on and so forth in the lead up to their worlds, which was maybe a month later or so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we were on the water then, but yeah, it is an interesting one where one of the boats has the most famous coach of all, Viktor Kovalenko. He goes to the events. He's not allowed on the water. Um, but he's there as a sounding board, a mentor. He looks at the tracking, downloads the tracking, gets the
Yeah.
drone, gets the GoPro, I guess. They put together a debrief, and they've just got an external
Yeah.
respected person to help with their day and to help drive their improvement through the event. Obviously, that's an extra expense for the owner for the campaign, but it's interesting, and I have been
You can see the
thinking
logic
about
in it, though. You can see the logic in it, absolutely.
yeah,
You can still
I
get a lot of benefit from, reviewing all that footage,
yeah,
being there on the ground with the team.
that's it. And I mean, if I was Victor, I'd be having a chat and maybe slipping a bit of coin to the drone guy of yeah,
Yeah.
hey, can we get a bit more of the sail trim or
Yeah.
specific things that can help you do a better job remotely. And yeah, potentially it's an area of coaching development. I think remote coaching where the coach doesn't have to be on site necessarily, but can help facilitate debriefing and the chats. And I think even as far back as when I was working with you at Aqua, it's my philosophy is it's sure the technical side's always important to be across, and we spend a lot of time on that, deservedly so. But so much of it is just getting the people talking to each other and just fostering that
Yeah.
the proper sort of functional team culture. So
I
yeah,
mean, that's not the first time you've done kind of, yeah, you've done remote stuff in the past, haven't you? Yeah, during COVID and things like that as well. Of kind
yeah, definitely, Simon, and yes, look closely into that because of the constraints of the pandemic that with traveling.
yeah,
Always found it rewarding. Always nice to sit down and talk sailing and help and support people. And so many avenues and ways you can do it these days with I guess what we call media, but it's footage from a GoPro or a drone, or it's pictures, or it's pictures of mast and sails. And again, these things help generate the discussions, and that's where the learning really takes place, and the understanding really takes place. So yeah, I think it's definitely an area of development.
yeah,
Um, and uh, I mean AI as well. How that I mean it's already transforming our lives without us even knowing it, making life simpler, making access to information so much
yeah,
easier.
yeah.
I'm sure that's going to play a part in our sport and
So,
probably coaching.
so the last event of the year was I was down with you in BVI's. Was it 3 weeks ago? I must admit that was a very nice welcome break to get down there. It was actually too hot some of the days, which is not surprising.
Yeah,
I'm Irish, but yeah, it was definitely 35 degrees some days from that, and it was up there.
I,
Beautiful, beautiful part of the world, out Tortola. Beautiful.
I've not spent much time in the Caribbean in my life, and mainly because my background is one design boats,
Yeah,
and my activities are through my sailing life before coaching was the old staples of you know Kiel and Medemblik and Sydney and
yeah,
Miami and so on and so forth. Um, and your Caribbean has been more the bigger boat scene. So I'd not been there that much, but have been going for the last 3 or 4 years a bit more regularly. And it's interesting. It's a really interesting part of the world. And yeah, I found it very hot. But that RC44 event, joining Aqua, Team Aqua for the first time this year was great to get back with them. And the competition, I'm sure you will agree, was just these fleets, where there's your 9 or 10 or 12 boats, um, and a heavy sprinkling of the world's best professional sailors, combined with owners who are really driven to want to be the best they can be. There's just nowhere to hide. There's no weak teams. I do remember a few years ago there was always 2 or 3 teams that were consistently filling those bottom few places.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see that anymore.
It used to be nearly two groups. I remember that back when I was
Yes.
back. It used to be, yeah, there used to be 2 or 3 boats that were just kind of, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, like you say, it's a brutal fleet. Like it's a very humbling fleet. You have one, really good race, then next race you're down the pan. It's
Yeah.
like maybe next time we should just aim for 2 mid-fleet results. You don't have that high
Easier
and
on the
low.
emotions. If you
Yeah,
have a good race
completely.
in a day, make sure it's the last one.
Yeah. I think you guys pull out. I think you guys in the last 2 days pulled out a heap of
Yeah,
points.
look, it was very satisfying, Simon. It's been a tough year for Aqua,
Yeah,
in the results sense. And it's probably been a bit humbling for the team, being a pace setter in the class for many, many years, founding member of the fleet, Chris Bake, um, in Aqua, and have won pretty much everything. But it has been a struggle. It's been a struggle for the team to get positive momentum going. And we had great training actually beforehand. Chris managed to get away, and we did quite a few days of training in a brand new boat.
it's very strange to see him there on the Monday. I thought he got
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
he got
I wonder,
days
he,
wrong or
he was probably
something. What are
wondering,
you doing here? You
he's
see
got
him
his schedule wrong. We had a lot of fun actually. It was good. It was good. They were good fun days, the training days, in really nice environment. And yeah, good chance to sort of just have time to properly, go over things in the morning, the following morning, and
Yeah,
so on. So we're well served with a fantastic chef,
yeah,
Natalia, in a very nice home. We're very, very lucky. And your first 2 days were tough.
yeah,
We weren't doing a lot wrong, but enough wrong that it was pretty punishing.
yeah.
And the we kept at it though, and it was nice that we got the reward for sort of, diligence and discipline and learning and keeping at it. Whereby I think we led at the top mark in all of the last 6 races, I believe.
Wow.
Um,
You
and
definitely won the last 2 days anyway. You,
yeah, yeah,
you,
sort of
you
converted that into mostly sort of first, seconds, or thirds. So yeah, nice way to finish the season, that's for sure.
famous day 3 moving day, as Jones used to call it.
That's it.
Aqua's like that's the Aqua way nearly. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's so many events that the first 2 days and then the third day just like up the ranks. And there were no discards. Every race counts. It's
yeah, that's
everyone's
right.
a bad race, but suddenly you get 3 bullets or 3 top 3s. It can make a huge difference
Yeah,
to where you end up at the end of the day. Like.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
So that's kind of the our whole wrap up on the year, isn't it? From start to finish. What do you reckon what's your highlight? Let's see your highlight, low light, most looking forward to for next year. Let's start out with your highlight for 2024.
I would say the highlight, Simon, was probably consciously putting more effort into the human side of these campaigns, and more study on team cultures and psychologies, and putting that into place, I think. And it's an area I'm keen to keep developing in my own sort of toolbox personally.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you spend so much time on sales data, the boat, all that kind of stuff, and yeah, trying to improve the sailors. But if the mindset and the team environment, things out on board, and the respect between the sailors and how they work up each other, things that if that's not right, it can make it can mess everything up completely. Like, kind of way. It's a very
Fundamental.
It
it's
is, yeah.
fundamental, Simon. It really is.
Unbelievable. I do some work, some digital stuff for a guy who's a life coach, and he does like these 360 studies on people, and which people in the real world would know, they do them regularly, like kind of way. But it's quite interesting, like basically telling what each person's about, and then how you can work with that person, what triggers them, what doesn't trigger them,
Mm,
what works for them,
mm,
what doesn't work for them, and how their brain works essentially, like which
mm.
could be quite detrimental actually in the sailing industry if you found out how some of our minds work, I think. It's quite worrying.
Yeah. No, but
We
it's
got locked up. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting area. Very interesting
yeah,
area.
yeah.
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 And 2025, setting up pretty busy back to Miami in January.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Actually, this winter, just to give a quick shout out, last winter started to develop. This winter, I'm doing more of it, which is cows match racing, something
Ah,
put together by Graham Sunderland and David Franks of Cows Etchells fleet fame. Um, there's a couple of sonars, and I get involved when I'm in town,
yeah,
and I like to drive actually to steer. I haven't match raced for 25 years since
yeah,
the Soling campaign back in for 2000, and just a fantastic way to keep sharp in the
yeah,
winter.
yeah.
Um, and Graham runs it fantastically well with debriefs and 360 video and so on, and nice to just be a part of that. And also, yeah, my crew is generally, yeah, they're my son's mates, but they're very good sailors. Like, without name dropping, my crew this weekend is Killian Bogue, who's Shirley Robertson's son. My crew the previous weekend was Fred Salter, Jules Salter's son. And but yeah, primarily they're mates of my son, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to sail with 18-year-olds um, who love their sailing, and they're very good sailors, better
Yeah.
than I was at that time, without a doubt. Uh, the opportunity just to sort of rub shoulders with them, and as Jules, Jules, the man of few words, but he quite passionate about it, and saying how he developed so much through his teen years
Yeah.
sailing with ocean racing sort of
Yeah.
veterans or Admiral's Cup veterans at that time, and just learning from them, just being with them on a
So,
boat or in the bar or whatever it was. So
especially something like
yep,
match racing, where it's very full on, it's you can learn a lot in a very short period of time. It's very there's a lot going
that's
on,
it.
quite sharp, and you'll make a mistake once, but you won't make it the next race.
That's
You
it.
know, very we used to do a lot of it here in Ireland, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, so it's a good day out doing some match
Yeah.
racing.
So doing a bit of that, just to fill the, it's not professional. I do it because I love it, and it's an investment in myself. Um, and yeah, but it's back to Miami for the month of January. Etchells, J70s, Stars. Actually, some starboat
Ah,
coaching for the
ah,
first time in a long time with Jack Jennings and Pedro Trush, which I'm really looking forward to. Uh, and then yeah, sort of on we go from there. Really, a full year of RC44 with Team Aqua. Looking forward to that.
yeah,
More time in the meter boats, the 5.5 and the 6,
yeah.
Cape 31. So yeah, it's the year's looking good, mate.
Nice, nice. Good. All right. Well, I think we can probably wrap it up there. And so as we could say, Happy Christmas, everyone, and we'll see you again in a year's time. Like if you don't get blocked or thrown out or whatever it is between now and then, we'll see how we go. And if we're still both in the sailing industry, I'm sure you will be. I'll see how I thread anyway. So
Thank you
yeah,
very much, Simon. Happy New Year to you, mate. Happy New Year to everyone.
yeah, yeah. You too. All right. Talk soon, dog. Take care.